This is a life or death matter, what I'm about to talk to you about. And that might sound kind of weird, like, what do you mean a life or death matter? We're in the midst of a global pandemic. We have 91,000 people who have died, so we've already been in a life and death matter. Correct. But how we are going to get out, how we are going to finally, what do they say, bend the curve or whatever, is if people have accurate information and data. If people know what the true numbers of positive cases are for coronavirus state to state. Now, we always tell you here at Status Coup, the government is corrupt. Don't trust the government. Certain things the government says I trust, but most, particularly from intelligence agencies, I do not. But what's really scary is if you can't trust the numbers and the information coming out from your governors and your state officials. How are you supposed to make educated decisions for yourself, for your children, on whether you should leave your home, whether you should go back to work, those kinds of things? So this came recently. Georgia's Department of Health under fire for errors in coronavirus data. The State Department of Public Health has made several errors that show larger declines in cases. Remember, there's been kind of talk and kind of these, open the economy back up. I don't know what you would call them, protesters. So the the Trump people, the Fox people, the right-wingers are saying, well, liberals, stop huffing and puffing over reopening the economy. Look at Georgia. They're reopening the state, and their cases are going down, which seemed odd to me because how are cases going down if the pandemic is still rapid countrywide, and Georgia, frankly, was late in even shutting down the state. Georgia, the governor was opening beaches prematurely while the pandemic still had a huge amount of cases in Georgia. So it seemed kind of odd to me. Well, how are cases rapidly going down as they're reopening the economy? You would think you'd see cases go up, because I've been warning you and I'm not a public health expert, but other public health experts have been warning, don't just jump to reopen the economy. You have to reopen the economy slowly and safely. But these right-wingers, and some Democratic governors too, public health be damned. Life be damned. Saving lives be damned. We got to reopen the economy. Well, it now comes out Georgia's Department of Health has been underreporting or misreporting or miscalculating the true number of coronavirus cases. Brian Kemp, the governor who stole the election, I'm not, Stacey Abrams is a dime a dozen neoliberal to me, but she did win. I mean, that's the truth. She should be governor of Georgia, whether I agree with her or not. So we already know Brian Kemp, shady guy, massive voter suppression in Georgia. He was Secretary of State while running for governor and used his office as Secretary of State to help purge hundreds of thousands of voters off the rolls in Georgia. So this is from The Hill here. The Georgia Department of Public Health has apologized for a recent error in its official coronavirus database. WAB reports that a data processing error mistakenly showed a decline in the number of coronavirus cases during the weekend. The DPH had mistakenly included 231 antibody tests among the positive cases. Unlike explicitly positive test results for the virus, coronavirus antibody tests measure whether or not a patient has been exposed to the virus or has had the virus in the past. Because these test results are considered probable and were included in confirmed totals, the overall case count showed larger drops between reporting periods, reflecting a false decline in case numbers statewide. Local outlets point out that this is the second time the DPH, Department of Public Health, has made an error in their coronavirus reporting data. Last week, department officials released a graph online meant to model the coronavirus case trends, which due to how the axes were labeled, showed misleading declines in case count. The state health department told WABE reporters via email that coronavirus test results are sent to them through the electronic laboratory reporting system in the state electronic notifiable disease surveillance system. Say that 10 times fast. Through this software, the DPH is receiving data from 127 healthcare facilities and labs. Despite the public acknowledgement from DPH officials, some are concerned the data is intentionally being manipulated to look better as a way to justify Governor Brian Kemp's decision to reopen the economy. Quote, "I have a hard time understanding how this happens without it being deliberate." State Representative Jasmine Clark, formerly a microbiologist, told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. "Literally nowhere ever in any type of statistics would that be acceptable." A spokesperson for Kemp said the office of the governor does not have a hand in selecting what data is published. Oh, of course. Because as always, when the government gets caught, it's throw the other department under the bus. So, first of all, if you don't live in Georgia, trust me, this should be important to you. Let me explain why this should be important to you. As Jen and I have reported for Status Coup, I reported it while at the Young Turks, governments all the time, state governments, local governments, basically manipulate data for various purposes. And they already manipulate data, as I have discovered over years. Jen has helped me report this when it comes to water. Remember that story we broke in 2018 that the Michigan State Health Department, the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality was basically cooking the data in Flint? They were going into residents' homes. They were flushing their water lines right before testing to get a lower lead number so that the governor, Rick Snyder at the time, could, voila, Flint's lead levels are meeting EPA regulations. Mission accomplished in Flint. The water's fine. We're shutting down these water stations. Poor black, poor white people, you're on your own. That was with manipulated data that we broke by going around the country, by going around Flint all summer and some of the fall and knocking on doors. That's how we found it out. We already have evidence, and it's not just Michigan. They've done this in Philadelphia. They've done this in Wisconsin. Water departments all over the country have manipulated data, which when you're manipulating water data, you're jeopardizing people's public health. You're jeopardizing people's public health by giving them a false sense of security. I've met people that it showed up no lead in their water because the test was manipulated, and now they're very sick. Cancer sick. Who knows how much lead was in their water because it was tested the wrong way. So why I bring this up is we already know state governments and city governments are willing to cook the books. But during a deadly pandemic, I would like to think that Republican governors, or Democratic governors, but in this case Republican governors, would not cook the data to help them save face from originally very high case count. Remember, Brian Kemp in Georgia didn't shut down the state when he should have. He delayed. Even as the cases were skyrocketing, he allowed beaches to open. You'd have to be a really sick, evil, twisted mother. Boop! Trying not to get demonetized. We'll see how long that lasts. You'd have to be sick to knowingly have your health department, and spare me, the governor doesn't have anything to do with what the health department is doing. Of course, the governor. The health department carries out what the governor wants. So, okay, benefit of the doubt. Could this be an error? An error that showed a declining case count of COVID in Georgia? Well, then I looked the state, across the border, across the Georgia border. Let's go to Florida. Florida scientist was fired for refusing to manipulate COVID-19 data. The scientist who created Florida's COVID-19 data portal wasn't just removed from her position on May 5th, she was fired on Monday by the Department of Health, she said, for refusing to manipulate data. Rebecca Jones said in an email to the USA Today network that she single-handedly created 2 applications in 2 languages, 4 dashboards, 6 unique maps with layers of data functionality for 32 variables, covering a half a million lines of data. Her objective was to create a way for Floridians and researchers to see what the COVID-19 situation was in real time. Then she was dismissed. Quote, I worked on it alone 16 hours a day for 2 months, most of which I was never paid for. And now that this has happened, I'll probably never get paid for. She wrote in an email confirming that she had not just been reassigned on May 5th, but fired from her job as a Geographic Information Systems Manager for the Florida Department of Health. After USA Today Network first reported Jones' removal from her position in charge of the Florida COVID-19 data and surveillance dashboards, she confirmed, as reported by CBS 12 in West Palm Beach, that she was fired because she was ordered to censor some data, but refused to manually change data to drum up support for the plan to reopen. And there we have it, folks. Beginning to see a pattern. In this case, 2 red states. In this case, 2 states. Pretty critical for Trump to get reelected. Georgia, I mean, it's certainly traditionally is a Republican state, a big Republican state. But, you know, it has been trending slightly towards the Democratic direction, and it has, in recent years, you know, become closer. The fact that Stacey Abrams even came close in Georgia, she got more votes than any other Democrat previously has. I don't agree with her politics. I mean, she's on the board of the Center for American Progress. Do I have to say anything else? I don't think she'd be a good vice presidential pick because she's not really progressive. I know it's not PC to say that because she's an African-American woman, but policy is policy. She ain't for Medicare for all, she ain't for a Green New Deal, and I'm not for her. But the truth is the truth. She did win the governorship. It was stolen from her. And she got more votes than any Democrat had in that state. So some polls are showing Biden and Trump basically a toss-up in Georgia. So Trump, both in Georgia and Florida. Remember, Trump won Florida, I think, by 1 point in 2016. Some polls have showed him not doing as hot among older voters. Florida, you know, land of the seniors, land of the boomers. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.